Yeah, Oprah actually recently talked about Whitney Houston in an interview. Oh, that's why you said, okay, well, there's that. She said that Whitney, kind of passed out and might have alluded to maybe. Didn't Oprah fall on stage?
Wellness to me means all things in balance. And balance doesn't mean all things are equal or at peace at all times. Wrong shoes.
I don't know, I ain't seen it.
And we didn't see we didn't see how she tripped, nothing. She just went down. We saw that. We saw her. She was walking and bam. And everybody was like, well, she said the shoes. Okay. Well, what was wrong? So, and as we're laughing about it and making light of it, just for me, how do you speak about someone that can't defend it? That, just in my humble opinion, it takes it different. Because that woman can't say yes or no. And now you just want everybody to take your word because you're the great Oprah Winfrey. And you just take my word that that's what happened. That, I believe, is unfair. I believe that's unfair. And I still love my sister, Oprah Winfrey. Let me be clear about that.
Have you ever noticed how one interview can completely change the conversation around someone who is no longer here to defend themselves? That's exactly what's happening right now, and the internet cannot seem to agree on who's telling the truth. What started as Oprah Winfrey sharing what she described as a personal memory about Whitney Houston has quickly turned into one of the biggest celebrity debates of the week. First, Oprah made a shocking claim about Whitney's final appearance on her Oprah Winfrey Show. Then, Whitney Houston's estate responded with a completely different version of events. Shortly after that, Whitney's longtime bodyguard stepped forward and backed up the estate's account. And just when it seemed like the controversy couldn't get any bigger, Monique entered the conversation with comments that many people believe were aimed directly at Oprah. Her response has now reignited an old conversation that many thought had already been put to rest. So what exactly happened, and why is everyone suddenly talking about Oprah, Whitney Houston, and Monique all over again? Let's break it all down. The controversy began after Oprah reflected on Whitney Houston's final appearance on The Oprah Winfrey Show. While speaking during a recent event, Oprah recalled what she described as a difficult moment behind the scenes. According to Oprah, Whitney fell off the stage during the production, and Oprah believed Whitney was under the influence at the time. She also said she pleaded with members of the audience not to share photos or discuss what had happened publicly. At first, many people simply accepted Oprah's story because of her reputation and because she had personally witnessed the incident. However, almost immediately, social media users started asking a question that Oprah may not have expected. If this incident was something she wanted kept private back then, why bring it up now, especially years after Whitney Houston's passing? Since Whitney can no longer respond or explain her own side of the story, many people felt the timing of Oprah's comments raised more questions than answers. Those questions only became louder when Whitney Houston's estate released an official statement disputing Oprah's version of events. According to the estate, Whitney did indeed fall, but they insisted it happened during a rehearsal or sound check, rather than during the actual interview in front of a live audience. They explained that part of the stage was poorly lit, making it difficult to see the edge, and they firmly rejected the suggestion that Whitney was under the influence. The estate argued that while Whitney openly struggled with personal issues during different periods of her life, it was unfair to attach those struggles to every moment or accident she experienced. They emphasized that Whitney showed up as the consummate professional she had always been, and that reducing every incident in her life to assumptions about substance abuse does a disservice to her legacy. The estate concluded by saying that Whitney deserves to be remembered with dignity, and that myths should not replace facts simply because she is no longer alive to defend herself. Just when many people thought the estate's statement would be the final word, another voice entered the discussion. Whitney Houston's longtime bodyguard, who spent years working closely with the legendary singer, shared his own recollection of the incident. According to him, Oprah's description simply didn't match what he witnessed firsthand. He explained that Whitney accidentally stepped too close to the edge of the stage because the lighting made it difficult to judge where the platform ended. He added that Whitney laughed the entire thing off afterward because she recognized it as nothing more than an unfortunate accident. In his view, there was nothing unusual or suspicious about the fall, and he strongly rejected the idea that Whitney had been impaired. His comments immediately gave additional weight to the estate's response, because now there were multiple people directly challenging Oprah's version of events. Naturally, this left the public wondering who should be believed when two very different accounts of the same event are being presented years later. But the conversation reached another level entirely when Monique addressed the controversy during a recent interview. Rather than launching directly into criticism, Monique answered a question about whether there were any industry conversations she had kept secret over the years. Her response was thoughtful and immediately caught people's attention. She explained that she refuses to publicly discuss private conversations involving people who have passed away, because those individuals no longer have the opportunity to confirm, deny, or explain what was said. Although she didn't initially mention Oprah by name, many listeners quickly understood where she was going. Moments later, the interviewer brought up Oprah's comments about Whitney, giving Monique the perfect opportunity to explain her perspective more clearly. She argued that speaking about someone who has passed away carries an added responsibility because that person has permanently lost the ability to defend themselves. Whether the story is completely accurate or not almost becomes secondary because the public only hears one side.
Many viewers immediately connected Monique's comments to her long and very public history with Oprah Winfrey. For years, Monique has openly criticized Oprah over previous disagreements, and their relationship has remained strained ever since. Because of that history, some people believe Monique's response wasn't simply about Whitney Houston at all. Instead, they argued that it reflected a much larger disagreement about accountability, media responsibility, and how influential public figures choose to tell stories involving other celebrities. Others, however, believe Monique made a valid point, regardless of who delivered the message. They argued that once someone passes away, there should be an extra level of caution before sharing deeply personal stories that could permanently affect how that individual is remembered. Interestingly, the discussion has now evolved beyond the original story itself. Instead of debating only whether Oprah's memory is accurate, people have begun asking a much broader question. Should anyone, regardless of how famous or respected they are, publicly reveal sensitive stories about someone who is no longer alive? Some believe honesty requires telling events exactly as they were remembered, even if those memories are uncomfortable. Others believe compassion and respect should take priority, especially when the person involved cannot offer their own perspective. This difference in opinion explains why social media has become so divided. There are people defending Oprah's right to share her experiences, while others feel the estate and Whitney's loved ones deserve to have their version heard as well. Another interesting aspect of this controversy is how quickly information changes once it spreads online. Some people began exaggerating Oprah's comments, with new versions of the story appearing across social media that went far beyond what was actually said. That's often how celebrity stories evolve on the internet. A single comment becomes a headline, the headline becomes speculation, and before long, the original statement has transformed into something completely different. Ironically, that very process is part of what Whitney's estate warned about when they asked people not to repeat assumptions as though they were facts. It serves as a reminder of just how powerful public narratives can become once they take on a life of their own. At the heart of all this is Whitney Houston's legacy. Few artists have influenced music the way Whitney did, and despite her well-documented personal struggles, millions of fans still remember her primarily for her extraordinary talent, unmatched voice, and groundbreaking career. That's why this conversation feels so emotional for many people. It's not simply about one story involving a fall on stage. It's about how history remembers someone whose impact on music continues long after their passing. Every new claim, every interview, and every headline contribute to the public memory of Whitney Houston, making discussions like this far more significant than they may initially appear. Whether you agree with Oprah, believe Whitney's estate, or find yourself siding with Monique's perspective, one thing is impossible to ignore. This controversy has sparked an important conversation about memory, responsibility, and the ethics of telling stories about those who are no longer here to speak for themselves. Sometimes the facts themselves become less important than the questions they raise. How much responsibility do public figures have when discussing private moments involving deceased individuals? Should personal memories always be shared, or are some stories better left untold? Those questions don't have easy answers, which is exactly why this debate has captured so much attention.